Take it away, Johnny Jack Kidwell.
Oh man, we're gonna jump right in on this. Well, that's great. Hey, no, I'm as Cynthia just mentioned. My name is Johnny Jack Kidwell, and I had the honor of serving as Speaker of the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council. And obviously, the council represents around 480,000 Cherokee citizens nationwide, and that includes, being an at-large counselor, those 335,000 or so that live outside the reservation, everywhere else in the world. So I tell people like this: if you break it up for those who are just now showing up or may have questions, about one third of the tribe lives on Cherokee Nation historical reservation land. About 150, 160,000, another one third lives in Oklahoma, but are at large. And then the other one third live everywhere else in the world, from California out there where Cynthia's at, to Japan, Germany, and North Carolina, and everywhere else in the world. But it's an honor to represent all of those citizens on the tribal council and do the best I can to legislate and appropriate to enhance their lives. I want to obviously thank both Cynthia and Abraham for creating this space and inviting me to come in and welcome you. Coming together to talk about Cherokee culture and spirituality is meaningful because these teachings are not just our history. We can use them today to relate to one another, right? And to the world around us. As a Cherokee leader, I understand the responsibility of remembering the past and making decisions for the next 7 generations. In Cherokee tradition, one of our important values is Gadugi, and I'm sure that Cynthia and Abraham both will talk about that later on today. But it means, working together for the common good, the good for everybody. And it reminds us that none of us walk this path alone. Our spirituality is deeply connected to the ideas of balance, responsibility, respect for one another, and for all creation. I appreciate each of you for being here with us with open hearts and open minds. I hope today's webinar gives all of you some insights, some connection, and respect for the Cherokee spirituality and the values that come to guide our people. And before I give the microphone back to Cynthia and Abraham, I just want to say a hearty wado. Wado to all of you who have joined live today and will obviously watch this webinar in the future, because I know knowing Cynthia, she's going to have this recorded and going to post this out there for everyone. So thank you for being here today. Wado to all of you, and I'll give it back to Cynthia and Abraham. Thank you.
We're done.
Yes, well, as having you as our representative on the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council, and now that you're speaker, it really, we are so grateful for you because I feel heard as a at-large citizen, because as you indicated, two-thirds of the citizens are off the reservation. And so you work so hard to make sure we have a voice. And I just want to say a big wado to you and your leadership. You're a true Cherokee leader and you're truly appreciated. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate you having me on here today.
So, CEO, my name is Cynthia Ruiz, and my Cherokee name is Lion Mother. I am joined by my dear friend Abraham Bearpaw, and his Cherokee name is Bear Yona. And for me, when I think of a bear in traditional indigenous cultures, we think of bear as being somebody that's brave. Bravery is one of the most important attributes of the bear spirit. So, Abraham, I know your birthday is coming up. It might be today or tomorrow. So, I want to wish you happy birthday. And just thank you for joining me. We've partnered on so many different projects. During the pandemic, we partnered and did a virtual program for Gen Z. We did Cherokee Nation Gen Z Leadership Program because we believe in the next generation and making sure that they have leadership skills. So, welcome, my brave friend, Abraham Bearpaw.
Well, Don, I really appreciate it. Well, Don, Councilman Kidwell, for that introduction, and Cynthia for organizing this. You're totally right. The whole reason we have our culture, we have our ceremonial teachings, we have our spirituality is because the Creator, Uneth Lana, passed down to our ancestors this framework for us to stay connected. This isn't the first time that we've seen trouble, that we've seen adversity, but we've always made it through because we had our spirituality, our support system, to be able to hold one another close, to be able to come together. We see a lot of division right now, and so I think it's an appropriate time for us to revisit some of these teachings so we can be reminded really what's important, and that's love, that's kindness. And that does take strength, in today's society to put aside our differences and to, just support people. So I'm really grateful to be here. Madon.
So I just wanted to start off with a little disclaimer. We are both Cherokee citizens, Abraham and myself, but we don't speak for Cherokee Nation. I am not a medicine woman. I don't hold that title, but I am a student of Cherokee spirituality, and everything that I have learned, because I've been studying for a long time now, has been from the elders, people like Crosland Field Smith, people like Ernie Frost, people like Donnie Squirrel. We have so many amazing people that know the traditions. And so I've been a student for a long time, but I don't want to misrepresent and tell people that I, am a medicine woman, because I'm not. That takes a long time to get to that title. I'm also here not to tell anybody what to do. Everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe and what's in their heart. All we want to do is share information with you, because it is a crazy world right now. I mean, even like if you're on social media, one minute I'm looking at these amazing monks. They have a walk for peace that are walking from Texas to DC, and all these people are coming out to support them. So I'm like, overjoyed. And then the next minute, I'm seeing people get killed, on the streets. So it's really that craziness is really causing a lot of people to be overwhelmed. It's causing people to, question their mental health. So we believe that if we can share traditional teachings and traditional ways, that people can go back to basics and realize our connection. So, Abraham, when you think of Cherokee spirituality, what do you think of?
I really think of connection. I think of love, and so whenever I was growing up, my uncle Jim Mankiller, he was the one who really took me under his wing and showed me everything I needed to know as a Cherokee man to be able to perpetuate our teachings. A big part of that is working on our own wellness and our own connection. I know in a lot of our communities, we still are dealing with intergenerational trauma. That trauma, that pain, that resentment, that can block our connection, right? And so we've seen that, in some of our communities. But the amazing thing that we're seeing also is a lot of healing. There are so many of you out there who are breaking those cycles of intergenerational trauma, breaking those cycles of addiction, breaking those cycles of violence, breaking all of these cycles, right? We see people learning their language again, going to school, accomplishing all of these really awesome things. And so, that's the one thing that, really comes to mind is just, it really does take kindness. It really does take love, but that takes work. So a coworker of mine, her name's Lily Drywater, she often reminds me there's a price that we pay for community. That price is annoyance, right? We can stay safe at home. Nobody bother us, and or we can go out into the community. We can come together, but when we do that, we're going to step on each other's toes a little bit. But that's totally okay. We've always had processes for that. We've always had conflict resolution. We've always had ways to practice forgiveness, because there's a bigger price that we pay for not coming together, and that's loneliness, and that's isolation, right? So that's really what it's always been about for me. Whenever I go out to the ceremonial ground, I've always been a member of Flint Rock Ceremonial Ground in Rocky Mountain. I've always had great teachers growing up. Pat Moss, Bird Wolf, Church Christie, Lula Elk, my Uncle Jim, just Nathan Wolf, so many, right? And now we've seen that next generation pick up the helm and continue to move these things forward. And growing up, it was a very tumultuous time for me. I grew up there was a lot of addiction in our communities, in Adair County and some of these places. I was really angry. I was a hurt young person. And I remember going to ceremony, and it was there that I was okay. I was safe. I could set down my fear, set down my anxiety, set down my resentment. I could listen to the wind, watch the trees, smell the fire, hear the laughter, and I knew I was home. I knew I was loved. I knew that I was connected. So that's what it's always meant for me.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this webinar, twofold. First of all, I recently did a presentation to Chalagi LA, and I like to have a balance. So the masculine, feminine, also the balance of me being a urban native and then a reservation native. So we have different perspectives. A lot of people ask me, why don't more people know about Cherokee spirituality? So let me give you some historical context. You know, our beliefs have been with us since time immemorial. So we've always had these beliefs. However, what happened as a part of the whole assimilation by the United States in 1893, as a part of the assimilation process, our beliefs or our ability to practice Cherokee spirituality was basically there was a code. The United States said, as a part of their assimilation process policy, we were not permitted to worship the way we wanted our spiritual ceremonies. And so it was actually a code. In the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they had an assimilation code. And if we violated that code, we could get fined or we could go to prison. So from 1893, not until 1978, when then President Jimmy Carter signed a law giving us our freedom to practice. So that means for 115 years, we were not allowed to practice without consequences. And I've heard stories from elders that some of their relatives actually went to jail for practicing our spirituality. And to me, it's like, that's so unbelievable. It was part of that whole assimilation process. The other piece of that was boarding schools. And Abraham, talk to us about the boarding schools and that assimilation process.
So, of course, the boarding school era, a lot of people think that era is over. It's actually not. There are still Native American boarding schools, where you're forced into assimilating. Those still exist. We actually have one right here in Oklahoma. And so, what the goal of that is to separate us from that connection, from that spirituality, right? And I think the intention in the beginning was because, if you see that as our framework for our strength and our wellness, if you separate us from that, we lose some of our strength. We lose that connection. We might be easier to defeat, right? And I think that was the intention in the beginning. And now, as we've seen, colonization, of course, swept through, the Americas, all the way from South America on up, right? We've seen, of course, a lot of assimilation. And I think now there's just a lot of fear. People are afraid of what they don't understand. And unfortunately, our traditional spirituality continues to be demonized in our communities, right? So it's been described as Satan worship, as all these different kinds of things, right? And which I've never understood that, because the first thing I was taught at the ceremonial ground was love, unconditional love, was taught support, I was taught balance. I was taught wellness, all of these things, right? And so that's why I'm really happy that we can start to have these conversations again. I think there's an awakening happening, not just with Indigenous people, but throughout the United States, of that what we're doing is not working. We're divided. There's a lot of people who are hateful just because they don't understand, some of these other people. And so in Cherokee culture, in our spirituality, we believe in the 7 directions. That center direction, that's what connects us, right? Whenever I was growing up, I don't think I ever heard the word citizenship. We never even cared about it. It wasn't a thing that we were ever worried about. You were a member of your ceremonial ground. And it didn't matter whether you were Cherokee, not Cherokee, tribal. It doesn't matter. You lived that way. You practiced those things. And so you're a member of your ceremonial ground. And so that's why I'm excited to perpetuate these things again. I'm currently working on a book called The Center Direction, so that folks who are not able to be here in Oklahoma can still follow traditional ways and be connected spiritually, even if you're not close to a ceremonial ground.
Well, one of the things that stuck with me when you're talking is like other people, other religions are saying this is Satan. As far as I can tell in Cherokee spirituality, there was no equivalent to Satan or the devil. I don't remember hearing any of that kind of talk. It was all positive and we're all connected and we're one. So it's very, interesting how, going back to the boarding schools for a minute, the United States operated over 400 boarding schools throughout the United States. And most of them are run by religious organizations. And I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, but it was the Catholics, the Methodists, the Quakers, Pentecostal. I mean, that's all documented. And before President Biden left office, he actually came out and apologized. Unfortunately, it was overshadowed by all the politics, but it was really those efforts were led by then Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, who's currently running for governor in New Mexico. But what she did is she had a listening tour and she went throughout the United States and listened to people that were traumatized by the boarding schools. So this is all documented. So it's not just stuff that we are saying, it's documented. And I was really sad that the apology that the United States gave to our people was really, not too many people knew about it because it was kind of overshadowed. Did you hear about that apology, Abraham?
I did, and I was hoping that it would, go a little farther, because I attended one of those boarding schools whenever I was young, along with my siblings. It was, of course, there was abuse, and I was told that I was going to go to hell. I remember that being a very real fear whenever I was young. I was very young whenever I went to that boarding school, and like I said, there was a lot of abuse in these things, and just because we were Cherokee, just because we practiced our traditional spiritual beliefs. And so I'm very happy to see that the tide is turning and we have a lot of people who are able to be more open-minded, about these things. Like I said, I'm Cherokee, so that's the way that I know. And in Cherokee traditional spirituality, we talk about love. We talk about balance and about connection, and so there's a prophecy actually that one of the tribal counselors reminded me of a while back, that if our people walk away and turn away from our spirituality, that's when we see imbalance and a lot of things in our communities. And so that's why I'm excited if people are ever interested in learning more about our spirituality, is because it is important to have that connection to, of course, Unithlana, the creator. But in our definition of spirituality, it's not just that connection with the creator. It's also the connection with Mother Earth. That is equally important. Our connection with our own spirit, where if we are able to live in balance, if we are able to if our soul, if our spirit is able to, we're able to be in line with it, it will speak to us and we can live in that spiritual alignment And, a lot of times that's where we find our spiritual purpose. And then that last point of connection, if we're able to do that work, then we can connect to each other in a meaningful way. And it doesn't matter what your politics are, doesn't matter what your religion is. None of that stuff has ever been a disqualifier in Cherokee culture. We were just taught to love, not love if they're doing this or that, just that we're supposed to love and support one another, no matter your race, no matter your nationality, and no matter your religion.
So, and this is built into Cherokees of who we are. We know that the spiritual arm of Cherokees is the Katua Society. The Katua Society has been around forever. And when I think of the Katua Society, to me, probably the most well-known Katua leader was Redbird Smith. Redbird Smith, and then he had grandchildren. And so I've only met one of his grandkids, unfortunately, he passed, but Crosland Field Smith, he carried on this knowledge. So the knowledge that we have access to today is traditional knowledge. It's not like we're making this stuff up. Abraham and I always talk about, the information we share is not our original content, right? It's information that we get from the ancestors and the elders. So, it's one of the core beliefs, and we've talked about this already, is like the oneness. We're connected to everything that's ever been, everything that ever will be. And the creation story really revolved around the Creator created the earth, and then he created people to be the caregivers of the earth and all living beings, including, the animals, the everything around us. So I feel like it's, having that concept of that we're all connected, and that's why I love the new book that you're working on about being centered. And when I talk about center and we pray from the center, it's not about like ego. It's not about like I'm, the center of the world. It's not like that. It's about we're all connected to everything. And when you have that, connection, it gives you a different understanding. And I like to say that a lot of people confuse spirituality with religion in the traditional Western sense. For us, it's not necessarily a religion, it's a way of life, right? A way of life living in right with everything around us, including the earth, including other people, including the plants and the animals. And it's really kind of just a lifestyle. So, Abraham, do you think it's a lifestyle or do you more think it's more of a religion?
Well, it definitely was our lifestyle. I mean, it was the center of our tribal towns, of our communities. And that's why we had no need for jails a long time ago. We had no need for institutions because that lifestyle helped us to stay in balance. The goal of our spirituality, the goal of our entire culture was for us to remain connected. And so, now the goal of society is to make money, right? That's the society we live in. I'm not saying anything for or against that. I'm just saying that's the reality, right? And so we have different values now. And so what we want to do, though, is be able to practice some of these things no matter where you are. For instance, we talk a lot about that connection, right? We have a lot of gratitude practices that we do when we're at ceremony. One of them just has to do is very simple. When we take our first bite of food after we're done playing stickball, everybody's hot, they're tired, you're ready to eat. We go into the cook shack, the chief will bless the food. When we get our plates, we're not allowed to just start eating. We take that first bite of food and we actually walk outside and we go to the tree line and we spit that first bite out. And of course, that first bite of food, that's the best bite, right? But instead, we have to get a little wild onions, little potatoes, little beans, little hog meat. And we go out to the tree line and I just say another quick prayer of gratitude. We spit that bite out, it goes back into the earth, right? Maybe the res dogs take it or, the bugs take it, or it composts back into the earth. And that keeps us connected again because so many things are blocking our connection right now even as simple as the phone. I know for me that can really block my connection. That can really cause a lot of imbalance in my life, right? I was just talking to my coworker about it. Like, man, it's been wintertime. We haven't been playing stickball that much. I can feel that because we're not running around as much. We're not laughing. You're not getting that physical exercise, that connection. All of these things, these parts of our ceremony, they were really practical. And I asked my uncle, Jim Mankuler, I was like, well, why is a game a part of our ceremonial life? When we go to ceremony, we play a game, And he said it's because the creator likes to see us smile. That's actually one of our spiritual purposes. And so I love that about our culture, that it is really practical.
Right. And so when you do live these principles and make them a part of your lifestyle, when you were talking, I was thinking also prior when everybody incorporated this lifestyle, we also didn't have a need for alcohol. Alcohol was not a part of our society. That was
Mhm,
brought over by the colonizers. And
mhm,
unfortunately, it became a problem with many of our people in our community with alcohol and drugs. But that, if like you said, if you're living a good lifestyle in harmony and oneness and balance and the spirit of Gadugi, you don't need all that outside stuff, right? You get it from nature.
mhm.
You get it from your community. You get it from each other. And I love the way that you started it. It's like at the bottom line, it really comes down to love, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Loving yourself, loving the creator, loving each other. Field Smith also said that he considered there was the seven bylaws, and it was loving yourself, loving the creator, loving each other, loving all of humankind. But he also talked about loving the four elements. In
Mhm,
most traditional indigenous beliefs, we believe in the four elements: earth, air, fire, and water. And those are sacred elements
mhm.
that we use. As you know, we have water ceremony. You want to talk a little bit about water ceremony and what that is?
Yeah, we've always gone to water, to purify, to wash, to celebrate. A lot of different reasons, but we can actually perform that ceremony, so to speak, anywhere we are. Actually, every day when I get into the shower, that's where I do my gratitude list. And so, of course, I can't make it to the stream every day, the river every day, but I still want to live this lifestyle. So that's where I just start listing things that I'm grateful for. We've always had a deep connection with water, like you're talking about. And so, when we go to ceremony, if we go to water, if there's something we want to let go, maybe we let it go there. If there's something we want to pray about, of course we can do that because we've always understood the power that water holds for us, right? And then at night, actually, I have another, I guess, wellness activity when I'm brushing my teeth. I do a what went well list. What went well today? It helps me to be connected again instead of, feeling shame or feeling like, oh, I didn't get that done or these things like that. That's where I'll do that list. And then also during the day when I wash my hands, that's where I do my positive affirmations. So I just need to hear some good things sometimes. Like stress is just crazy. Bills can get out of control. Life happens. We all know that. But I want to keep my inner dialogue positive so that it supports me. One of the goals in our curriculum is to quiet that inner critic, that voice that says we're not good enough, all of these things, right? And so, how we do that is by working on our inner dialogue and making sure that that voice inside of us is a voice of love and a voice of support. And so that's where I do my positive affirmations when I'm washing my hands. So even though I'm not going to water, as much as I would like to, even though we do go regularly as part of our community, I can still do those things no matter where I'm at.
And so I think the main ceremony that Cherokees have is stomp dance, but let me just talk a little bit about our prayer because we pray in 7 directions. Most other indigenous native communities pray in the 4 cardinal directions, east, north, west, and south, but we pray in 7 directions because, as you indicated, we pray down to Mother Earth, we pray to the Creator, and then we pray center. And the other thing is that we are a little bit unique because we pray counterclockwise. That's something that's important to us, and we know that 7 is a sacred number because we had 7 clans. We pray in the 7 directions. So I know that you go to stomp dance on a regular basis. Talk a little bit about that and what that experience is like.
So for me, growing up in the ceremonial ground and going now, it's always been healing. My uncle told me when people come to the ceremonial ground, when people come to our ground, they're supposed to feel like they're home. He
Mm.
never said they're supposed to feel like they're home if they have a blue card. They're supposed to feel like they're home if they're native. He just told me when people come to this place, they're supposed to feel like they're home. There was a bus one time. I was really young. I don't know how it ended up out in the middle of the woods and came to the stomp ground. They were trying to get to Missouri. Everybody got off and they fed up and they danced. And in the morning when the dance was over, they got on their bus and they kept on going to Missouri. And so, it's like I said, the stomp ground, that's really what it's about. When I'm in there, for me, it's about letting go what no longer serves me. I give it to the fire. Like you said, that we can heal with the 4 elements, right? With the fire, with the wind, with the earth, and with the water. And so I pray a lot whenever I'm out there. Maybe I'm praying for gratitude because I'm so grateful to be in this community. Having a community is extremely important. And that's why I'm really excited to see all of the active participation at all of the at-large communities that we have and the on-reservation communities that we have. Just having that community is extremely important. So I pray a lot that our community can stay together, that we can forgive each other, that we can overcome whatever obstacles that we have. If somebody's ill, I'll pray for them. But there's just a lot of laughter always. I love that how informal it is. If it's your first time going out there to ceremony, it may be a little intimidating just because it is dark. It's not like a powwow. There's nobody, selling corn dogs or anything like that. There's
Jewelry.
yeah, it is really kind of a quieter space. And I'm not knocking powwow at all because I do believe in spiritual connection, of course, everywhere. And so, but yeah, having that quieter space out there, we're taught that, whenever we sing, whenever we dance, our ancestors come to the tree line to hear. And then we're connected once again with our ancestors who've come before us. And so having that connection to our ancestors before, understanding our place in the present, and then teaching those who are coming up after us, we're going to be able to keep things balanced. There's a prophecy in Cherokee culture that as long as our women continue to shake shells, the earth can still be put right again, can still be put back into balance. But if there ever comes a time where our women no longer shake shells, then the earth is too far out of balance to be able to be healed. And so, and I think the reason that prophecy came about is because our people just understood if we're practicing these ways of wellness, then our communities are well. And we have places where people are safe. And so, but that's really what it is about. And especially in these, trying times, I think acceptance is important. I think that kindness is important, that love is important. And we have different ceremonies where we go just to forgive. When it's our new year, we're taught to let go of everything that happened the previous year because our people were very smart. They understood that if we hold on to that resentment, that blocks our connection. And so that's something I try to do as often as possible is just to forgive. I forgive myself if I missed the deadline, if I did something, whatever. Forgive other people who cut me off in traffic or whatever that thing is for you. And for a lot of people who are in recovery, who are starting a new life, being able to forgive yourself for some of the older things. There's a quote I love by Maya Angelou. She says, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And to me, that's what the stomp dance is about. It allows growth. It allows us to be flexible. So,
Well, I love the fact that you talk about forgiveness because I believe forgiveness is such a powerful tool. But thank you for the reminder because there's two types of forgiveness, forgiving others, but self-forgiveness is so important because so many people that I know beat themselves up. I should have done this different. I should have done that different. And you're right. As long as you're doing the best you can, keep moving forward and emphasizing the love. So I wanted to share a Katua saying. It says, honor all people with love, even to your last day on this earth. So I feel like love is such a universal, you know, concept, and love is at the center of all and everything. And it's really like leading from your heart. Because if we lead from our minds sometimes, then people get judgmental.
mhm,
People want to be right. I'm right and you're wrong because they want to feel better than the other person. But once you lead from love, it's a much different feeling. And what I would like to know from you, Abraham, is obviously the at-large people, we're pretty far away from Oklahoma and don't get to participate in traditional ceremonies. What can people that don't have access to ceremonial grounds, what are some of the things we can incorporate in our lives?
So I think just defining what that spiritual connection is for you. Some people feel spiritually connecting at the at-large gatherings. Maybe they go to local powwows. Maybe they participate in some of the local cultural things. And then finding time where you can be quiet and can be connected with your spirit. I think in nature, anywhere in nature, we can definitely do that 100%. Whether you want to go to water yourself, you don't have to know the songs, all of these stuff, just to go for yourself, to go for your own wellness, to go for your healing, to be able to practice gratitude, to practice forgiveness, all of these things. And then have a place, like I said, where you feel connected to others. I think even we saw during the pandemic, the most introverted introvert was really, searching and really missing that connection, right? And so we see now how powerful that is. A lot of people talk about grounding now. Just being connected to the earth, extremely important. Dr. Barnes, my partner on the curriculum, she talks about the earth being a sponge, and just having all of this energy, right? There is so much energy around us in the earth, in the trees, in the water, that it actually gives us everything that we need to sustain us and to sustain our spiritual connection. And I would say the last thing that's really important is faith. Having faith in the universe, having faith in the creator, as you understand the creator, and then having faith in yourself. That is also extremely important. Each of us, we're taught in Cherokee culture, we're made perfectly. There's a reason why you are made exactly how you are. It is because whatever your gift is, that is what the world needs. We're taught that each of us are medicine. We're not all supposed to go and do this or that. We're supposed to do the thing that we were made to do. For some of us right now, that's teaching language, being a nurse, working in the community, taking care of elders, taking care of our children. For others, it could just be breaking those cycles of intergenerational trauma. That is warrior work also. But I think it's really important just to know that you're loved, no matter where you are. There is no perfect Cherokee. None of us are any better than anybody else. I teach wellness for a living, and I often falter because the society that we live in, it does not support our wellness currently. but we are making great strides, and I'm really excited and hopeful for the future. So if we all collectively work on our wellness, if we all collectively work on our connection, then eventually the world's going to come back into balance. Because when I talk about love, I don't just mean the people who I believe the same as me spiritually, the people who believe the same as me politically, believe the same as me ideologically. I mean those who I really, really disagree with. I really do believe that people are good. It is our systems that could use some work. And so that's what our Cherokee Spirituality is here to address, to help people to come back home. You know, that center direction, for me, it's always been represented by the fire. My uncle told me to carry that fire in your heart. I've traveled the United States. I've lived in a lot of different places where I didn't have ceremony, but I carried that fire in my heart so that I could stay connected. And I really do believe that has helped me through my most troubling times.
And one of the key points I think you brought up was our individual uniqueness, because we're in a society that everybody compares themselves to somebody else. And so when
Mhm,
you start comparing yourself to other people, it's a no-win game because
mhm,
you're not the same as everybody else. And
mhm,
so again, I love the fact that you want, embrace your uniqueness. I tell people that everybody's different. And how do we know that? We each have different fingerprints. Nobody has the same fingerprints. So it's really about appreciating who you are as a person, what your strengths, what your weaknesses are. Everybody has weaknesses. And so
mhm,
working on those weaknesses and not being defined by society, not but being defined about how much money you have,
mhm,
a job title. Harvard University did this study over 75 years, and it was a study on happiness. And after studying people for 75 years, the conclusion is it's the most important thing in happiness is not about your money, not about your job title. It's about the quality of your relationships. It's
mhm,
about connection. So
mhm,
if you live from a place of love and quality connections, you will be happy. I
mhm,
guarantee it. It just
mhm.
said, and stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Oh, if I only had this car, if I only had this, I only had that. No, no, no. You're perfect and whole and complete just the way you are. So, any final thoughts? And then what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to questions. So, I'll give you some time for your final thoughts, and then we'll start taking some questions.
So the final thoughts that I have on Cherokee spirituality is that it really does promote that belonging. And so I hope that whoever's watching this, no matter where you are, like I said, just to remember that you are perfect exactly the way that you are. And understand if you're ever having a bad day, if you ever do not feel well, that's actually by design. Our society um, does not want us to feel well, our society right now. The reason being, it's proven when we do not feel good, we spend more money. So just remember, we actually have to work to reclaim our power, to reclaim our wellness, just like we're reclaiming our culture, reclaiming our spirituality. And cut yourself a break. This is hard work. The work that you guys are doing to break cycles, to get an education, to pay your bills, to try to have meaningful relationships, to keep your walls lowered so that you can be tough for the world, but also be soft enough to be able to be connected. That's a lot. That is a lot of work. And so just know that you always have somebody praying for your success all the way from Rocky Mountain, Oklahoma. And that's all of our ceremonial people. I love that wellness and that connection is really promoted. So I thank everybody for the work that they're doing, because it's going to take all of us to be able to bring our communities back into balance. And so, and then the last thing is to share your gift. My sister Sarah Bearpaw often says about our culture, we want to learn, practice, teach. So if you learn something about spirituality, about culture, feel free to share it. We want to open up that cultural and that wellness bottleneck so that we can, as many people as possible can be exposed to these teachings, because that's how we're going to be able to heal. So, well done.
So one final thought I have is we haven't really talked about plant medicine. And so plant medicine is a great way to clear your energy when you're feeling out of sorts. Cherokees, we use cedar and sweetgrass. So lighting cedar and sweetgrass and just clearing your energy and getting grounded and feeling more, at home because we are have our home is who we are. And so if you really look at for us, tobacco was it was considered the oldest plant. So I use that when I do prayer. I use that as an offering. I make little prayer bundles and hold the tobacco as I'm praying. And so when you really think about plant medicine, it's really all medicine, all these drugs that are given us are synthetic forms of the original plant medicine. So forget all the synthetic stuff. Go back to basics and get in touch with the traditional plant medicines that we use. And there's still time. Cherokee Nation has their seed bank open. They're taking applications for that until February 13th. Last year, I asked for some tobacco seeds, so I'm growing my own tobacco that I'm really excited about. But do you have any thoughts on plant medicine and how you use that or how you've seen it being used?
Yeah, I've seen it used my whole life. My mom always used cedar in our house, to cleanse the house out. She would just, collect some cedar, burn it, open up the windows to let out the anxiety, the stress, the things that no longer serve us. And one thing too to keep in mind is whenever we harvest something, I was taught I need to give back, right? So if I'm taking something from the earth, I need to give something back to the earth, right? So if you go to cut a little bit of cedar, or maybe you live in California and you're cutting sage or what have you, just make sure you take something with you. Maybe you water that plant, maybe you leave a piece of fruit to compost or whatever, and then also just take enough for yourself. We're taught to not go out and be like, oh, I'm gonna get a bunch and sell it on Amazon, right? We just take what we need for our own personal use. I think that's also important. But having that relationship, and we can practice that anywhere we go. As much as we're taking from society, as much as we're giving, to make sure we're also giving back. That's another way we can bring balance back into our communities.
Thank you for that. So now if we have any audience members that have questions or comments, Q&A should be open or the chat should be open. So does anybody have any questions? Please put them in the Q&A now. I do have Jorge Ruiz has his hand up. And so let's see. Okay, we're going to bring him in with us. Okay, you're up, Jorge.
Okay. Hello.
Hello,
Hello.
CO.
Hi there. Sorry if you can't see me, but I really appreciate you presenting this presentation because it really hones deep into not only our mental health, but also our cultural well-being and connecting ourselves um, when we're feeling down or when you guys were touching up on like being hard on ourselves. I am a culprit of that because I'm really rough on myself. Like I don't give myself grace enough, and I need to be practicing that more. So I really appreciate y'all for highlighting that, and may the Creator bless you guys always. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's truly, for us, I think that we are our own worst enemies, right? Because what happens is that, again, if you lead from your mind and not your heart, then you're going to think of everything you did wrong, everything you don't have, everything like say, for example, on social media, everybody puts all these good comments, and where
Mhm.
does our mind go? That one negative, right? And then
Mhm.
you focus
Yep.
on that negative. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. And so,
Mhm.
I love the word grace. Give ourselves some grace, show ourselves compassion, show ourselves love. And so all these principles we've been talking about, it applies to ourselves. So thank you for being there, being here with us. And for the record, we're not related, but maybe, who knows, maybe we are related. You
Maybe.
never, you never know, right?
That's true. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And, just to one other resource I wanted to let people know about also, we have a nonprofit. It is called Restored Access. It's RESTORED, Restored Access. You can find it on Facebook. We have a weekly cultural wellness class on Sunday evenings. Everybody's free to jump on via Zoom. We offer free resources, our workbook, our planner, daily planner. Dr. Jenny Barnes, who's a psychologist, she does that class with me. So if that's something you're also looking at, Jorge or other participants, quieting that inner critic and empowering your inner cheerleader, right? We talk about a lot of different things. And so you guys are welcome. Everybody, you are more than welcome to join us that Sunday nights at 7 p.m. But definitely jump onto our Facebook page. All of our flyers are on there. You can contact us and we can get you whatever resources you need. So,
Okay, so
Thank you, Abraham. Thank
yeah,
you
so
so much.
somebody actually just put in, Brad asked about resources. He's an at-large member. And so restored access Sunday at 7. So that's Oklahoma time. So if you're in LA, it's 5 o'clock our time. So how do they sign up for that?
so you'll just get the link. We have the Zoom link right in there. And so you can just jump on with us, like I said. But, and then also we offer our free workbook, free daily planner, free worksheets, all of the resources that you guys need to be able to work through the entire curriculum, which has foundations in Cherokee ceremonial and cultural teachings. Like Cynthia said, this is not most of this is not our original knowledge. Like we just came up with this. We were very blessed to have all of this information passed down to us, and so we're taught to share it as far and wide, definitely as possible, because times are tough, and it's really important right now to have a place where you feel like you belong, and to have that space where we can help each other, support each other, navigate through some of our difficult times.
And so, Abraham, where can they find your books?
So my books they're all on Amazon. We have the Walking in Balance book, the Walking in Balance daily planner, our workbook. You can purchase all of those on there. But if you come to our class, we can just give you the PDF, and you can download that for free. So.
And Abraham and I have co-authored a book, Cherokee Wisdom. It's right behind me. It's really lessons for becoming a leader. We are each and every one of us a leader because leader is really defined as the ability to influence others. So we all influence others, our community, our family. And so we really think that all this is goes hand in hand because if you're living with the values of Cherokee spirituality, then you become a better leader. You're better connected. So let's see. I see that Mike has his hand up, so I am going to bring in Mike. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Cynthia. I just wanted to thank both of you so much. I also work with Jorge at San Bernardino Riverside Indian Health, but we are trying to bring back the old ways. And I think one of the most important things that you teach or that you believe is that we are born perfect. And I think it is such a discredit to all of our brothers and sisters to be taught that we are born broken, that we are born inferior, that we are born with all these maladies and that we need to be fixed. And we're taught every week that we are inferior and that we have to be fixed and we have to do this. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart so much for these teachings. And I hope that we can spread this across the world. And thank you so much. That's all I had. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I speak for Abraham and myself. It's just that this is like a passion of ours, right? It's something that we feel like the world would be a better place if there's more love, if there's more connection, if there's more compassion, there's more grace. And we really, as Cherokee leaders, we believe in remembering the 7 generations in the past, which are basically our ancestors, and considering 7 generations in the future. So we are planting the seeds of knowledge because we want to create a better world and be a part of that. So, and I feel as a responsibility as an elder that like I really feel like I want to make sure this knowledge continues long after myself. Abraham, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. And I definitely would love to support your work with our curriculum. So, like I said, check out our Restored Access Facebook page, shoot us a message. I can get you those resources for free to help support you guys.
So we have time for one more question. Any final questions? Our speakers, you can raise your hand. If anybody would like to have the last word. Don't see any takers on that. So Abraham, I'm going to ask if you can pray us out, please.
Sure, definitely. When Nephilim now we come to you in prayer today, we give thanks for all of the blessings that we have, the opportunity to lift one another up, to support one another. We also thank you for the opportunity to continue to heal, to let go of what no longer serves us, to let go of our pain, let go of our trauma, let go of our resentment, let go of our anger, so that we can come together again, so that we can help lift our communities up. Pray that you please just be with everybody who's having a hard time, who is fearful, who has anxiety, who has anger. Just please just help us to continue to persevere. Please just put your hand over these people and bring resilience. And once again, we just thank you for the opportunity to love, the opportunity to be kind to one another. And we thank you for everything we have. Wadon.
And thank you for that. And so you can connect with us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere. And this recording, what I am going to put it on my YouTube channel. That's my name, Cynthia M. Ruiz. I have a YouTube channel. It'll be posted there so in case you have friends that you want to share this with. And we really, just want to express our gratitude, whether you're with us live or you're watching this later on. I want you to know that our hearts are pure, our intentions are good, and we're filled with gratitude to everybody that took the time to be with us. Wado.
Wadon.